Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to jump into the Dungeon Master's Guide and look at a cursed item that's for clerics only. And that cursed item is the Phylactery of Monstrous Attention. I always thought that was kind of a strange name for a magic item, but it's what it does. So, Phylactery of Monstrous Attention. While this arm wrapping appears to be some sort of beneficial device, it actually draws the attention of supernatural creatures of exactly the opposite alignment of the cleric wearing it. This results in the cleric being plagued by powerful and hostile creatures whenever he or she is in an area where such creatures can appear. If the cleric is 10th level or higher, the attention of his or her deity's most powerful enemy will always be drawn, so as to cause this being to interfere directly. For example, a lawful good cleric attracts various demons, and eventually the notice of Orcus or Demogorgon. Once donned, a Phylactery of Monstrous Attention cannot be removed without an exorcism spell, and then a quest must be performed to re-establish the cleric in his or her alignment. That's a lot of penalties for accidentally putting on a cursed magic item. The Phylactery of Monstrous Attention is one of those items that I have given out. I'm not a big cursed item guy, and I especially don't like cursed items that you have to have a quest to get rid of. A quest I don't mind, but exorcism or remove curse or stuff like that. I don't mind when a remove curse is something that's available to the party. That's fine. Sometimes it's fun to give out a cursed item and let the party kind of try to figure out what the heck is going on. That can be a lot of fun. But to just give it to a low-level party and say, okay, go spend X number of dollars to go get or gold pieces, to go get this removed. No, I'm not a big fan of that. But that being said, the Phylactery itself is for clerics. Why clerics? Well, it's to get the attention of the cleric's antithesis. So if he's lawful good, then he's going to be dealing with a chaotic evil monster, group of monsters that are going to be coming after him. And I've used this in that way, and it can be fun. I used to use this in the early 80s. I gave one of these out to a cleric, and the cleric couldn't figure out why this monster or that monster was constantly bothering the group. And then eventually they figured out that it was because of this Phylactery of Monstrous Attention. But I have given this out in other ways. And in fact, my wife is one who received one of these in one of our games. She had a ranger, the ranger from the Solm game. That's the same character she played in our Remnants of Solm game, first level game that I showed years ago on the channel. And in fact, the same character she was playing in Valpurgis, the video I just did a couple weeks ago. And she mentioned the Phylactery of Monstrous Attention and said, hey, I got stuck with one of those. What about doing a video on that? And I said, okay, that's a good idea. So the way I gave it to her was that Phylactery would affect anybody who was unfortunate enough to get it. And I did use it like I just described. All these different monsters kept coming up and attacking, and no matter what, they weren't getting a break when they were in any kind of a dungeon environment. And even when they went into a town or a city, they were still finding that the less desirable elements were coming to them. Eventually, they were able to figure out what was going on, and she took the Phylactery and she put it in a small bag of holding that she had, not portable hole. She had a small bag of holding. She took it and put it in there. In my game, because those are other planar spaces, bags of holding or portable holes, that will actually stop the item from being able to, send out its call to evil things or whatever you want to call it. That actually will block it. So she was held onto the thing because she thought, well, waste not, want not. Maybe there's something I can do with this down the line. So she held on to it. Well, during the course of the adventures, they hired an NPC thief. They didn't have access to an alignment, so they were kind of worried about him. And I, as the one running the NPC, had him do a couple things that might or might not have been dubious in nature. And I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing to make them doubt this guy. So she came up with an idea where she would accidentally, see the air quotes, leave the Phylactery behind somewhere where he might find it and kind of test it. He knew it belonged to her. So the obvious thing, if he was on the up and up, would be to go ahead and say, hey, look, you dropped this, and go ahead and give it back to her. But if he was a little bit on the dodgy side, then he might go ahead and hang on to it. Well, it turned out at me playing the NPC, and I'm staying true to what I'd written down about the NPC, When he found this item, he did indeed recognize it as belonging to her and quickly put it in his pack. Now, again, the way I was doing it was this particular phylactery could be used by any class, didn't require remove curse or exorcism to take it off, but would still work as long as it was on your person. You didn't have to be wearing it, it would be on your person. Well, the thief didn't have a portable hole or a bag of holding to put this in. He put it in his backpack. So it was calling to the monsters all the time. So what had happened is the thief stayed with the group for a little while, and a couple other things happened. They were getting, of course, monstrous attention. But by this time, they had figured out that the thief did indeed keep the phylactery, so they dumped him. They said, "You're no longer wanted here. You know, you've done a few things we don't like. You're gone," and left him with the phylactery. So I left it open because I wasn't sure if I was ever going to bring the thief back as a possible hostile NPC to them or something like that, or if indeed he just sold it to some curio shop or magic shop, and then he would end up, the phylactery sitting in this person's possession would bring attention and the thief would be fine. I hadn't decided what was going to happen with that. And that may be something that I come back to. That's still an active live campaign, and I've never resolved it, so I may go back to it. But it was a fun way for me to go ahead and throw a magic item, a cursed magic item, at the party that had penalties to it. It was attracting all this monstrous attention, but that they were able to not only get rid of, but kind of use to their advantage. Now the question becomes, oh, it's a cursed magic item, it's evil, therefore the ranger, who is by necessarily good, should not have been able to keep it, should not have been able to use it. And the counter that I felt was correct, and this is what my wife brought up with her character, and the others, was that the original intention was to maybe somehow get this in the possession of an evil cleric and let good creatures attack the evil cleric and turn this twisted magic item to good. And she, in fact, had said that when they found out the nature of the phylactery. And she specifically wanted to go to a cleric because the write-up mentions cleric, even though the one I had didn't necessarily need a cleric. It was just something that they had in mind. Well, sometime down the line, we'll find the evil cleric, we'll make sure this gets in his possession, and then he'll attract all these good monsters. I thought it was a great twist. I thought it was a fun use of a cursed item. And then the ultimate use they gave it with the thief, I thought was really good. So that's a way that I was able to put the phylactery into the game, usable by anybody, have some fun with the players, and then have the players have some fun with the item. It ended up being a lot of fun. As a cursed item, of course, it's not worth any experience points. It's worth 2,500 gold if you sell it, but it's not worth experience points. And interesting side note, I give 1 experience point per gold piece acquired, unless you get experience points for a dagger. So if you take a +1 dagger and you get 200 experience points for it or whatever, and you later sell that dagger, you don't get experience on the dagger gold pieces that you got. You already got the experience points. That's the way I've always run it. And in this case, had they sold because it was evil, I would not have given them experience points for the 2,500. I would have simply let them pocket the gold, but I would have questioned the alignment on selling it and things like that. So the way it worked out was really good. And like I said, this is still a live story in my campaign, so it may come back to roost one of these days. I haven't decided yet. But that's it. That's a look at Phylactery of Monstrous Attention, inspired by my wife, who's been playing in my campaign since March of '81. And that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Please leave some comments below. Also, tell your friends. Let's keep growing the channel. Also, take a look at the Patreon, see if there's anything you can do to help me out there. But that's it for today on page 121. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.